NFL Week 17 betting breakdown, Christmas week edition, and a happy Festivus to those who celebrate. Got some early week angles to consider, if not actually bet quite yet. One prop top of mind this week, and that will be Michael Penix Jr. passing yards under. I filed this thought away when listening to Rob Pizzola break down Giants Falcons on last week's Forward Progress Pick Show. And of course, the price TBD this early in the week. But as a reference point, Penix closed in the low to mid 220s yesterday against the Giants. He threw for 202 passing yards, but in fairness, he played about as well as could have been expected, with several drops keeping his yardage in check, and his lone interception, a pass that probably should have been a touchdown. Also worth noting, Penix's output was capped by the game state in a blowout win, 27 pass attempts to 36 rush attempts for the Falcons yesterday, if we filter out 2 kneel downs to end the game. I think game state less likely to suppress Penix's passing output this week, with Atlanta a consensus 4-point underdog at Washington on Sunday Night Football, but some other factors may suppress that output as the Falcons continue to usher in their rookie quarterback. First off, when we look at the quality of opponent here, Washington's pass defense, not the most formidable in the league, especially after the latest injury to Marshawn Lattimore, but still a step up in class from what the Giants bring to the table, as evidenced by Washington's defense yesterday, overcoming 5 turnovers from the offense to put the team in a position to get that win over the Eagles. Another factor here, this is Penix's second start. That means Washington's defense will have some game film from yesterday that the Giants didn't have at their disposal when preparing for Penix's debut. One more thing here, thinking about the elements. On Sunday night, it's too far out to put too much stock in the forecast, but it looks like we have a chance of showers in the afternoon into the evening with winds in the mid to high teens, and anything suboptimal might matter relative to the pristine conditions indoors yesterday for Penix and the Falcons. So all in all, no price point yet, but worth keeping on the radar as the Week 17 prop market develops. And moving from props over to teasers, we've got our final full slate of the season with meaningful teaser potential before the annual Week 18 quagmire of who's in and who's out. So I'll run through some teaser legs catching my attention early this week, starting with potential 6-point teaser legs. And going in rotation order, the first one that catches my attention would be Indianapolis -2 at the Giants. However, 4 different factors give me hesitation here. 1, the teaser graveyard is littered with road favorites. 2, the Colts are a high variance team with Anthony Richardson at quarterback. 3, this is the time of season where a premium is being placed on teams with something to play for against teams with seemingly nothing to play for. And number 4, while this game is taking place Sunday, the Colts may be eliminated from the playoffs before this one even kicks off, and that will happen if the Chargers and Broncos both win on Saturday. So all in all, this leg may be worth betting come Sunday, but I think we've clearly got enough factors to steer clear of it for the time being. Next up, Las Vegas +7.5 at New Orleans. My main source of hesitation here is that we've got 2 bad teams in this game, and this late in the season with 2 pretty bad teams, it basically increases the variance. I remember David Malinsky years ago noting that when he considered betting 2 bad teams against the spread, he felt like laying -110 was akin to laying -115 with these bad teams because of the wider range of outcomes they can present. New Orleans also yet to play in Week 16. They're at Green Bay tonight, so we've got some incomplete information here. I do see asymmetric risk in the Raiders' favor that any Saints injuries or underperformance probably outweighs the upside of a potentially strong showing for the Saints. So considering that, plus a situational edge for the Raiders, the Saints being on a short week off Monday night, I might get to the table here, but with 2 bad teams, no rush to get down on this one just yet. Moving right along, Tampa Bay -2 hosting Carolina. Classic angle in play here, looking to take the superior team at home to do little more than win outright. 2 things that give me hesitation for this one, similar to that Colts-Giants game. We're at that time of the season where a premium is being put on teams with something to play for against teams with nothing to play for. And number 2, that Carolina improvement we've seen in recent weeks seems like there's something real to it with the effort with which the Panthers are playing. I still do see a clear gap between them and Tampa Bay. So thus far of the legs we've discussed, this one would be at the top of my pecking order. Takes 2 to tango, thinking of some possible options to pair Tampa Bay with. let's look at Green Bay plus 7.5 at Minnesota. Couple factors of hesitation here. One, Green Bay, like the Saints, yet to play in Week 16 with the Packers hosting New Orleans at Lambeau Field tonight. So again, incomplete information and some asymmetric risk that any Green Bay injuries or underperformance could outweigh the upside of a potentially strong showing. And there is a situational edge for the Vikings here, at home on regular rest, hosting Green Bay when the Packers will be on the road on a short week. All in all, this one seems like just about a toss-up, as the narrow point spread would imply, so I can't fault the notion of taking more than a touchdown on a team we shouldn't be surprised to possibly win outright. One more 6-point teaser leg that might get a lot of popularity this week, Miami down to minus half a point at Cleveland. This one doesn't cross through the 7, but in a 2-team 6-point teaser at minus 120, you're laying about minus 285 on each leg. And if we look at the Dolphins here, their money line price, minus 290 at Circa, minus 300 at Bookmaker. That surpasses the minus 285 threshold to win outright, which is all we need in taking them down to win the game by half a point. Couple factors that give me pause here. One, like the Colts and Tampa Bay legs we've discussed, might sound like a broken record, but it is worth keeping in mind this time of year. We're seeing a premium put on a lot of teams with something to play for when they're taking on teams that have already been eliminated from contention. Also, always a bit hesitant when looking at a road favorite as a teaser leg, since road favorites historically have been a red flag when we're talking about teasers that might appear to be slam dunks at face value. All right, so a handful of 6-point teaser legs to consider. We also have a couple games that might be fits for both 6.5 and 7-point teasers. Starting with the 6.5-point options, Cincinnati plus 3.5 hosting Denver on Saturday. This one breaks that golden rule against teasing through 0, but with a spread of Cincinnati minus 3, shaded heavily toward 3.5 at several books, including Bookmaker. We're essentially getting 7 points for the price of 6.5 while crossing through the 3 twice. Some hesitation in this one, Cincinnati dealing with cluster injuries along the offensive line, and the Bengals also on a short week with Denver on a mini bye off Thursday Night Football. So I think it's worthwhile, all things considered, to still look to capture some key numbers on the Bengals as the superior team at home, while maybe not unloading given some of the nuances in play here. And if we want to pair the Bengals with a team in a 6.5-point teaser, the most logical fit would appear right now to be Tennessee plus 7.5 at Jacksonville. The hesitation I have here, like that Raiders-Saints game, 2 bad teams increases the variance. And that said, I can't fault anybody for looking to bet against Jacksonville, of all teams, to win a game at this stage of the season by more than a touchdown. As I mentioned, 2 7-point teaser legs to consider as well. First off, Seattle plus 3.5 at Chicago on Thursday Night Football. Like that Bengals breakdown, this one breaks the golden rule against teasing through 0, but that doesn't mean we should rule it out at face value. The spread here, Seattle minus 3.5, shaded toward 4, and it's as high as 4 at Bookmaker. So it's almost like getting 7.5 points for the price of 7 while crossing 3 twice. I'll note the hesitation once again here, like the Colts, like the Bucks. We're reaching that time of the season where there's a premium on teams with something to play for against teams with nothing to play for. So I'm not in a rush to buy Seattle high, taking them to win by margin on the road. That said, if you like them to compete, if not simply win outright on Thursday night, the 7-point teaser may be the angle to get in play on Seattle. And if you're going to do that, I think you'll probably want to pair the Seahawks with the Eagles, down to minus 2.5 hosting the Cowboys this week. The Eagles being that superior team at home, needing to do a little more than win outright. Couple things giving me a little bit of pause this early in the week. One, uncertainty around Jalen Hurts' status after he was concussed yesterday in the first quarter. But as Adam Chernoff put it on last night's episode of The Simple Handicap, based on recent history, for better or worse, concussion protocol seems like more of a suggestion than a mandate at this time of the season. And thinking beyond Hurts' specific status, this is one more game where we might be getting a premium placed on the team with something to play for against the team with seemingly nothing to play for. So plenty of food for thought there. If I had to fire on any teasers right now, in the 6.2 team teaser at minus 120 or better, I would give the nod to Tampa Bay minus 2 hosting Carolina, paired with Green Bay plus 7.5 at Minnesota. If we want to look at a 2-team 6.5-point teaser minus 130 or better, can't fault the notion of playing Cincinnati plus 3.5 hosting Denver on Saturday, paired with Tennessee plus 7.5 at Jacksonville. And if we want to look at a two-team 7-point teaser, good at minus 140 or better, that fit would seem to be Seattle plus 3.5 at Chicago on Thursday night, paired with Philadelphia minus 2.5 hosting Dallas. And with all this said, I think one of my biggest mantras on the show over the years has been that our biggest edge as bettors is our ability to pick our spots. Personally, I'm choosing to wait for some more information here. More info on Green Bay based on their performance tonight. More info on a potentially stronger option than Tennessee to show and market to pair with Cincinnati in a 6.5-point teaser. And also for more info when it comes to Jalen Hurts' status for this week. I realize the market will move based on player news and team performance, but sometimes that's a trade-off that's best to accept. Now, we may have a lack of clarity across much of the betting market this early in the week, but fortunately, no lack of clarity in the beer we're going to feature on this week's show. Pivoting to the hops, a timely selection for this time of year, I've got a beer called Hops for the Holidays on hand. This is a double dry hopped West Coast IPA with Citra and Nelson hops, and it's a collaboration between two powerhouse breweries, my favorite brewery, Green Cheek Beer Company out of Orange, California, as well as North Park Beer Company out of San Diego. Hops for the Holidays clocks in at 7.5% ABV, so it does pack a bit of a punch. And when it comes to the appearance, there's a saying that you drink with your eyes first, and this one has some festive can art. I'll hold it up to the screen so that those tuning in via Spotify or YouTube can see it on the screen. Now, while we've got some festive can art, the taste doesn't disappoint either. Notes of pineapple, kiwi, blueberry, and cotton candy. So overall, this beer, or anything like it, a very proper way to enjoy this time of the year. Last but not least this week, the Malinsky Minute, and I'll shift gears for a moment from the NFL to the college ranks. My alma mater, the USC Trojans, ending their season where it started at Allegiant Stadium for a Las Vegas Bowl matchup against Texas A&M on Friday night. And this all reminds me of a saying I think Dave would appreciate as someone who could embrace getting philosophical. And that saying is, a man never steps in the same river twice. The underlying point here is that it's not the same river, nor is it the same man. And that rings painfully true for USC right now, because they'll be playing the same stadium, but it's a much different setting considering the significantly lower stakes than that season opener against LSU. And USC is also the same team by pretty much name only at this point. The wheels just fell off not so long after that very promising season opening win over the Tigers when USC was last in Vegas. And frankly, I've lost count of how many players from that game against LSU have since entered the transfer portal. Now, getting to a parallel here that may resonate more deeply with those of you who aren't fellow USC Trojan fans, the saying that a man never steps in the same river twice applies to betting much more broadly as well. The bad news might be that just about every edge will dry up with time. In other words, the river is going to change. But the good news is that we can change too, and by evolving with the right approach, we can identify new edges as they present themselves. All right, that'll do it for this Festivus edition of Props and Hops. So through some feats of strength, I hope your Christmas week and your Week 17 betting outcomes require no airing of grievances. Programming note, I'll be back next Monday for one more short and sweet solo episode before the playoffs. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in and have a safe and Merry Christmas.